Hello, hey, hi, I'm Ghosty, and welcome back to the Underworld. Or in this case, the Upside Down. Ooh. Today we'll be watching episode 2 of Stranger Things, season 4. Chapter 2, Vecna's Curse. So hopefully it'll explain a lot of the crazy stuff that went down last episode. So, this is part 2, or chapter 2 of Stranger Things, and here you are. So, let's get into it. I'm going to watch it, and I'll be back to this. Alright, and we watched the episode. I finished the episode, and again, to no surprise, Stranger Things dropped another good episode. So, let's talk about it. Episode 2, or Chapter 2, Vecna's Curse. Firstly, overall, again, I think it was a pretty good episode, and I enjoyed it. It was probably more disturbing than the first one was, or maybe that was probably because I was eating during it, so that probably explains a lot. But anyways, yeah, like I said, it was a damn good episode. There's no surprise. And they branched out on everything and anything. So let's talk about it. Plus, also, I'm kind of watching it, recording, watching it, making a video, watching it, making another video, kind of thing. So I can't wait to watch the next one. But for now, let's talk about this one. So the episode starts off with the aftermath of Chrissy's death, which, if you saw in episode 1, it was absolutely messed up and really weird. I mean, it is Stranger Things after all, so it's not really a surprise or anything. But it's after that, and basically the whole city is under this tragedy of this popular cheerleader death that happened. I mean, it's a high school student, so it'll be big regardless of who it was. But it branches out to everyone, the kids, the parents, the school, and we see all the side characters react to it and all that. And we see it get across. So it happens, and then that happened. And then Freddie Munson, not the high school, yeah. Well, no, I was going to say high school club, but Hellfire Club leader, Eddie Munson, the one that does the devil horns pose, is gone. He's missing. And I was really interested in this. I was really invested to see where he was, but we don't really find out towards the end of the episode, which, by the way, we'll get into, and I want to share something that I really like about that, but that's for later. But yeah, Eddie's pretty much gone now, and he's missing. And he fled the scene or whatever, and not only was it, he wasn't scared of being, well, actually I don't know this at least, but it doesn't say that he's scared for making him seem like a suspect or anything. He was just blatantly straight up terrified of what happened and what he saw, so he just ran away and got away from it as far away as that as quickly. And then he's in his dealer's secret house or whatever, his secret headquarters or whatever they call it. He has a secret house that he hides away from since he is a dealer, and they find him pretty quickly. Or no, not quickly, but they find him pretty efficiently is what I meant to say. And it was a pretty cool sequence. They're all on phones and whatnot, and then Robin gets a good idea and looks on the computer, and they actually end up finding the address, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we see the town of Hawkins react to it, and the town's reaction to it of this tragedy that just had happened, which I doubt all the info is fully revealed anyways, because her body was all messed up thanks to this thing, which we do learn more about in this episode, and we see more of it, which I'll get into. But we see the aftermath of Chrissy's death and all that. So Eddie Munson is basically the prime suspect, which I was oh my god, obviously it makes sense, but he didn't do anything wrong, and I like him, and I was rooting for him, so I didn't want to see anything bad happen to him or anything like that. So I was just waiting in. I was hesitant to see him, but I also wanted to see him and make sure he was good or whatever, and just see how he would react to it and where he's at, because he wasn't in his trailer, and he wasn't at his house, or that is his house, I guess. He wasn't there. He was just gone. So, but glad to see at the end of the episode that he's actually, not doing all right, because he's paranoid and kind of shitting bricks, but for the most part he's all right, safely at least. Mentally, no. Physically, yeah. And at the start of the episode, we also get a good look at Hopper and what happened with him, which is kind of anticlimactic because, well, it makes sense that he survived it by jumping or whatever, and he fell down this really big gap beneath them from the explosion, which made sense. But the previous season made it seem like he just evaporated and was transported somewhere else from the trailers. But now we just learned that he jumped down and fell, and then they thought he was dead. because I guess Joyce didn't really have the time to look around and had to get out of there quickly, so it makes sense. And then the Russians found him, and now he's in this like prison, which we see more of the letter. And I still forget his name. The guy with the beard that goes in the ice bath. I really need to find out his name. Is it Jim? No, that's Hopper's name. I don't know what his name was. I can't remember. But my man is a genius. He has this like whole machine, and he reroutes the phone line and makes it seem like he's coming from somewhere else. My man can invent the VPN at this time, and in like this day and age, 1980s or whatever, wherever they're at. But that was a pretty cool sequence as well that we get in like the middle episode kind of area, which is pretty cool. And then we do learn of Hopper and his whereabouts. He's in Russia apparently, and he's in prison, which he's getting tortured. Which they're talking about like the KGB. Like this and that. And the third, he's probably getting tortured. Wasn't the KGB, but he was getting tortured. So there you go. But he is in prison, and I guess the one who sent the letter to Joyce was trying to help her out. Or no, it's clear that he wants money and it's a ransom note, but I'm not sure how it works, because he could either be a prison guard that is like trying to make his amends and make some extra coin off of the side stuff, so he sends a ransom note to Joyce. So he could either be a guard helping Hopper, or maybe someone just affiliated with the prison or in that area that wants to help Hopper. I don't know, but we'll see. Nothing else is really stretched out more on that topic in this episode besides that, and just them finding out what's actually going on. But let's go back to that tragedy that happened, that horrid death that we had to watch. The shadow of this tragedy of Chris's death, or Chrissy's death, is still like lurking over Hawkins' entire episode, and we see everyone's reaction to it, but I don't remember his name either. The basketball player that's like the head of the basketball team kind of thing, the blonde guy, Chrissy's boyfriend. We see his reaction to it, and I was wrong. I guess there's not more to him than just that. In the first video that I made about the first episode, I thought maybe there's more to him than they're leading on, but it doesn't seem like that. But now it's getting in like a deep swing of things, because now he's after Eddie, because he thinks, that now that something bad happened to his girlfriend, obviously he's doing the right thing, but he's doing it the wrong way, because he automatically assumes that Eddie did something. I mean, it looks exactly like that, because she doesn't, apparently to him or in general, she doesn't go after drugs or anything like that, and she doesn't smoke before, and she doesn't touch that kind of stuff. But now all of a sudden she has, and she's in Eddie's Munson's trailer, which is very surprising to them and to the basketball player, or Chris's boyfriend, whatever his name is. So it comes to a shock to them, and it's like very surprising to them, and it's just not a thing. It's very unusual. And well, he automatically points fingers at Eddie because something happened to her, which is very unusual, and now he finds out this has happened to her. So he has to, he tries to do what's right in his own mind, I guess, but he's pointing fingers at Eddie, and I know they're going to clash at some point, and he's going to find Eddie, and I'm really just hoping nothing bad happens to Eddie. I'm a fan of him, I'm rooting for him again, and I'm just wanting him to be okay. So like I said, at least he's okay physically. Mentally, no. Physically, yeah. But I know they're going to come like to face at one point in the show, probably soon, because now he's on like a manhunt for him. The whole basketball team is, besides Lucas, which, for obvious reasons, he is on, like, he knows that Eddie didn't do it and he couldn't have done it. So, at least we see that from Lucas. Like, his nerdy side and his, like, time with Mike and Will and Dustin and them is actually coming, like, peeking through, and he has to, like, he's trying to defend his friends and whatnot, and, like, how Eddie can't do it, but he just can't because he's still trying to keep this reputation up after winning the basketball game, and trying to fit in with these kids that he really like admires. So he's really trying to just fit into it. So he can't really mention the Hellfire Club and whatnot, but it's it's kind of difficult for him to deal with it. But we'll see how it plans out. But yeah, he's just kind of sitting there awkwardly, but it's actually a good thing that his sister played in the Hellfire Club last episode, because he actually used that as an excuse. So props to her. Props to him for thinking of that pretty quickly. But yeah, like I said, I think I was wrong about the basketball player having more to him than what they were leading on for. But I know he's going to come face to face to Eddie at some point, and I do think someone's going to get hurt, probably. Or maybe Vecna or something else is going to come along. We don't know. It could be in the finale. You never know. So, we'll have to wait and see that. Also, their party house, I'm not sure if it was on purpose or not, but they have Christmas lights, which normally obviously isn't decoration. Maybe LED lights or something along them lines, but again, this is 1980s, so I don't know. But it could be a reference and a nod to the original season in the first season. Maybe not. Not sure, but I just want to point that out because I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, while he's learning about his girlfriend's death and everyone's still reacting to it, and Lucas is trying to defend his friends, but also not really trying at all. Hopper's still getting tortured and whatnot. He's in there. They do some brutal shit to him. Not but the gas mask thing. They said get the elephant, and I was like, an elephant? But then they put a gas mask on him, and it looks like a chunk, and they squeeze chunk so he can't breathe and he loses oxygen, which is just straight up brutal. Maybe that's just me, but I was looking at it, I was like, God damn. That's a little too far, don't you think? But they don't kill him off later in the episode. They send him to, I forget the name. It's just some kind of even more reinforced kind of area where he just has to work and slave away all day and night instead of getting tortured. At least that's, I guess, kind of better. And he gets a new fresh cut. I mean, he's kind of bald, but that's alright. More of a buzz cut than bald, so at least he still has some hair. And then, of course, like I said, we have Max and the kids trying to, on the phones. Max and Dustin are with Steven and Robin, and they're trying to find out the address, but we know how that plans out. I said that. And, yeah, I just like that scene a lot. And then we get some scenes with Steven and Robin talking about, their interests and, their, love problems with, Robin's crush. I talked about that in the last episode. And then Steve's, kind of weird girlfriend issues that he tries. He even tries hitting on a girl or, talking to her. But she has a boyfriend, and he's like, okay. Fuck me then. So, and then another thing that happens is that Will and Eleven and them come back to Hawkins. Well, actually, wait. Is it Mike that comes back to Hawkins? No. They're in high school. So it's Will and Elle. Yeah. Alright, well, they come back to Hawkins, and we see Mike meet Elle again. Or in this case, Jane, because she's really trying her hardest to live a normal life and just live it as a normal human being and just live her life as she can and to the fullest. And she can't because everything always comes back to her, and she's always reminded of something that happens to her and the experiment and the entire things that happened with her and the lab. So it's pretty painful to see. And there's a lot of emotion that comes with Eleven or Jane, because even she says, or she doesn't say it out loud, but it's implied, she does not like being called Elle. Mike calls her that a few times, and she just does not like it whatsoever. She tries to ignore it, and still, it tries to admire Mike and enjoy the time with him that she has, but she does not like being called Elle. I think she's trying to get as far away as possible from that kind of, strange shit that she's been dealt with, and she just can't. She, can't escape it. Not Mike's fault, because that's what he calls her. That's a nickname for her, so it makes sense. But she literally just can't get away from it. Then there's more stuff with Jonathan, I think his name is, Will's older brother, and then his stoner friend, which is pretty cool. I didn't talk about him last video in the Stranger Things episode 1 talk, but I do like him. He's cool. And it turns out that he's got an acceptance letter to a different college than what Nancy's going to, which is his girlfriend, Mike's sister. And, well, he has to tell her that, so, well, that sucks. They were planning to go to the same college, it seems like, but now that he has to tell Nancy that he's not, because he's got an acceptance letter somewhere else. Because he doesn't want to leave his family behind just to go chase a dream and, goals that isn't his, because that's what Nancy wants, and that's what he's trying to, comfort her, and he's trying to push her towards her goals and go with her, but he's trying not to, because he can't leave his family. So we're going to see that come up again, and it might even reach to Joyce and them, but it's probably going to stay within just Jonathan and Nancy, because this is also the last season, so we'll probably get a conclusion to them too with that. I'm not sure if it's I'm not sure if it's going to be because of that, but we'll see when it plans out. And then, speaking of Jonathan, he and his stoner friend drop Mike, Elle, and Will off, and boy do I feel bad for these characters. They dropped off at the skating rink, and Elle's like bully is there, and her group of friends, the blonde girl, and they're all there, and well, a lot of stuff unfolds here. And boy, do I feel bad for these characters, because Mike is being lied to, but it's kind of okay because, well, not really okay, shouldn't be lied to, but Elle is just trying to make sure he doesn't seem to worry, and he doesn't have to worry about her and get all anxious over her, and her in school and all that, and trying to, become this fully functional actual person instead of what has happened to her and her still living in that, like, past that she had. And then we have Will, which is basically has been an outcast the entire time this season so far. I know we're only 2 episodes in, but each episode is an hour long, so it's a lot to get through, and Will's basically an outcast in all of it. He's very outcasted, and it seems like ever since that happened with the Upside Down situation in Season 1 with Will, he's kind of just went downhill when it comes to like his relations with everyone, which obviously makes sense because he's obviously like probably traumatized because a lot of shit happened and he was a child. But even without that, he's still outcasted. He started wheeling with Mike and Elle all the time. He's not talking to anyone much. Even in school, he's like not talking to anyone really. He was pretty much only talking to Elle, unless he doesn't have any friends and doesn't really talk to anyone yet, which makes sense. But still, because they might be starting, or they're still in like the beginning of the year in school, maybe. I remember Mike and Dustin talking to Lucas about like this is what we're in high school for, kind of thing. So I'm not sure. Yeah, but they had this whole like situation unfold with Elle, Will, and Mike in the skating rink, and Elle is straight up bullied to like beyond anything I've seen. Like the thing where she embarrassed herself is kind of her own fault because she tried using her powers on her, but this is just an extraordinary like amount of unnecessary like harassment. They full on play a song for her. They had the lights focus on her. They have everyone dancing and circle around her, all just to bully her and make fun of her, which is so incredibly rude, and it makes me hate this blonde girl so much, and make me feel so bad for Elle because like obviously the other characters don't know what's going on and what she's been through, but like from the viewer standpoint, like we all seen what she's been through and what these characters have went through, and Elle of all people deserve probably the most like heartfelt like conclusion because she's been through so much and now she's actually finally able to live a normal life, and she's trying to and she just can't. And I really do think that she just deserves something nice finally because she's been through so much and she's finally able to rest and actually live a normal life, and she just can't now, and she's having so many problems and obstacles in her way, which isn't helping her. And then even with Mike, she's like lying to Mike, which makes sense because she's trying to make sure he doesn't have to worry about her, and so he doesn't have to get anxious over her all the time. So it makes sense why she's lying to him, but it's still kind of not a good thing to lie about or lie in general. So we'll have to see how everything else takes place with Mike and Elle, and of course Will. I still feel really bad for Will too because he's been outcasted like a lot so far, and he doesn't talk to anyone again. And again, like he's been third wheeling this whole entire episode basically. So Will deserves some love too. I'm not gonna lie. And then they even throw a milkshake on Elle while they're like doing this whole like charade to like basically bully her and just laugh at her and make everyone have a good laugh when Elle really doesn't deserve it. Like what did this girl do to you, you blonde bimbo bitch? I don't know. But anyways, she like the next part was I mean, it was kind of very like relieving, and I wanted to see it so bad. Elle tried to use her powers on the bully, the blonde girl, Angela. Actually, I'm pretty sure her name was Angela. So she tried to use her powers on Angela, like in the previous episode, and didn't work quite well, like I talked about before. But this episode, Elle gets pissed from this, and she picks up a heel and dicks the shit out of her, and she jokers her, and you get what you fucking deserve, and bam, right? And she fucking cracks her nose open, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, I was cheering for it. Like obviously it's fucked up, but like she got what was coming to her, right? I'm not wrong for that. Like what? Like she like dead up, straight, blatantly deserved it, and I was glad to see it. I'm not gonna lie. She got blood on her nose and all. I was like, yeah, more blood that isn't from one of my favorite characters. Yeah. All right. Well, That was just a great, like a big scene. And then Mike and Will come over and like, oh shit, what did you do? And then it even gives Elle a flashback of like that laboratory scene where all the children are dead and the doc, or I guess her old father, was like, what did you do? What did you do? So yeah, that happens. All right, let's see what's next. Also, before I get into the next thing, I want to say 40,000 for Hopper. I get it, but my man is worth way much more. Like what? Oh yeah, and then I'm gonna talk about Nancy. Whew, Nancy. All right, well, besides Nancy, she's doing her thing as like a reporter for the school, and she's trying to get stories. So she's doing the same thing the whole episode. But later on, she has to search around for her friend, because her friend, Fred, I think his name was Fred Gibson, Fred Nelson. One of them's a iCarly Freddy, isn't it? I don't know, but Fred or Ben, whatever his name was, Ben kind of looks like me, or Fred, whatever his name is. He like has had an accident. They go down his whole backstory and death in this, and it is insane because, well, he's apparently gotten in a car crash before, and he's seeing things early on in the episode, or like maybe like between the like beginning and the middle, somewhere in between there. They're talking to a cop, trying to get to the trailer to like look at the crime scene, so Nancy can get stories. And Freddy or Ben, whatever his name is, sees like the cop and calls him a murderer. And apparently Ben or Freddy or whatever his name is, now I gotta look at his name. No, whatever. Nancy's friend Ben or Freddy, whatever. I think his name was Fred. He is trying to like distract himself because this cop is talking to him, and he can't because he can only see what the cop's saying. The cop isn't actually saying it, and Fred's just hearing it in his head. But he's saying how he's a murderer, and that Fred has gotten in a car crash. It's like revealed to us in this that he's gotten in a car crash and he killed someone by accident in like a car crash, maybe drunk driving or something like that, something along them lines. But he's gotten in a car crash before, and it ended up in someone's death. And he has a big like slash on his face, and there's a scar from it. So I was like, oh shit. And then later on in the episode, they they play the bell sound, which, by the way, just from these 2 episodes, if you hear this bell, that clock bell, I actually might play it, the sound. So if I do play the sound, you'll be hearing it. But this bell, if you hear the sound, you already know someone's about to get murked. Like, you already know someone's about to get absolutely done for. Because so far, that's like the calling card for this Vecna character, which we'll get into more in a little bit. But he ends up like following the sound and going into like the woods or whatever. And it's not even just a bell, but like this like clock bell sound, like this like big like grandfather clock kind of sound, is like his calling card, Vecna's. Which, by the way, I wish I never called him Vecna in the first like video, because then it kind of gave it that like ominous feeling, because they actually named him Vecna in this episode instead of the first one, but that's alright. But yeah, it's basically his calling card, and it's not only the sound, but actual clocks are around too, which is pretty interesting. I like it. I'm not sure why, but hopefully we find out, and there's actually a reasoning. But even if it's not, it's still kind of cool. I don't mind if there's no reasoning. But he ends up getting murked, obviously, in a pretty brutal way, which is looks even more horrifying. Actually, no, the first one definitely looked more horrifying. Chrissy's was definitely worse. But yeah, he ends up getting murked. So we don't see the reaction and like the town's reaction to his death either, because his body ends up being laid in the middle of the road on some like highway, or not a highway, just some street, just some random road near Max's house and near the trailer, because he like ends up walking away from that like vicinity of Max's house and Eddie Munson's trailer where Chrissy's was dead. That's where they were, because Nancy wanted to get stories. So he ends up walking away from that and ends up in a road nearby, and his body ends up being torn up by Vecna, and then he ends up dead. And I was like, holy shit. Like, we do see that Vecna kills people the same way. And, hold on, let me get my thoughts together, and I'm going to talk about this. Because I think I've talked about pretty much everything, and summed up everything pretty quickly to, like, actually talk about it, what I wanted to talk about. So, and normally I might, like, try to time things right, or, like, chronologically, but it's my thoughts, my video, so it's whatever. I don't mind too much. So, let me get my thoughts together, and I'll talk about this Vecna situation. Alright, now, let's talk about Vecna. Because, well, they actually name him Vecna in this episode, so it gets, the point across. He's a dark wizard in Dungeons and Dragons, or whatever game they play in the what's it called? The Hellfire Club. Whatever game they play, in that Vecna is a dark wizard of great power. He's a very powerful being that's pure darkness and pure evil. And they make that point, fairly certain. They get that point across pretty well. Which, by the way, Eddie is there, and because this is when they find him, and he is absolutely traumatized. And a side thing I'm going to say, it is so nice to see, and relieving, that these characters get to talk to someone else that has actually experienced these events. Because Hawkins is cursed, as they say. It is weird, and it's strange. Stranger Things. But Hawkins is weird, and it has all this strange shit going on all the time. And they have the most experience out of pretty much probably everyone. So now someone else, a character, and that character that I actually like, is actually experiencing the same stuff, and then they can actually talk to him about it, and they can understand each other. And he's even played the games, and he's he's literally the leader of the Hellfire Club, so he understands all that game lingo, and just he understands their experience because he's now seen what this strange shit has to offer. And then being able to actually share these experiences with each other and actually understand each other is so great to see, and it's so relieving. And again, it's a character that I like, so I'm looking forward to see what else they do with him. I can already assume if he doesn't die off, that they're probably going to try to face some kind of creature or something, and him and Dustin or him and someone else is going to be talking about it, and he's going to know a certain weakness or strength to these creatures from in the game that actually somehow do work in reality as well. So say Vecna in the game has a weakness to fire or something along them lines, and then the actual Vecna, the monster, also does. So I'm gonna just guess that and throw that out there in case I'm right. But yeah, Vecna. I'm looking at it on my screen right now, and it is so badass. This shot with all these tentacles types things. Also, this upside down stuff kind of reminds me of the Resident Evil 8 mold, all that black residue type of stuff. I don't know, but Stranger Things that does it differently. I'm not sure what it's made of. I'm not even going to get into what it's made of. But Vecna. So Vecna, again, is this very powerful being, this really dark, powerful entity that is obviously murking shit and does not play around. We still don't know that much about it, and we don't know much about him or her or them, whatever it is. We don't know too much. So I can't even base it off of much, but there has to be a connection between Vecna and 11, or Vecna and the laboratory, or something that has to do with the Upside Down. Maybe even Will, I'm not sure. But he also targets random people, I think, or some people that have had past experiences, or people that are actually just undergoing trauma and are suffering on the daily. He killed Chrissy, which she was having problems with whatever, or we didn't really see her problems, but her problems was Vecna, so maybe not. But then we have Fred that had that car crash and was dealing with that and that trauma, and then Vecna went after them. So I'm not sure if it's certain targets that Vecna's going after, but we'll see next time the bell rings. I guess we'll see, because then we'll know who the next victim is. And if that is the case, Vecna might try to go after Max, since Max is still dealing with Billy's death and her mom's alcoholism and whatnot. So I won't be surprised if that happens, and that actually occurs. But we know that Vecna is still here, and for Chrissy, when Vecna killed Chrissy, it told her that her suffering was over, and she didn't have to suffer anymore. But for Fred, it said that it wanted to join him. So I'm not sure what this is implying, because the only thing that I think of when suffering and joining me is that Vecna's actually a living, obviously it's a living and breathing thing, but it also has emotions and it has its own thoughts. So it can think and believe different things at once. So it actually might have that, George Dixon in its own mind, that it can think and act like an actual human being. So it seems that Vecna, whatever it's doing, it believes that it is right, and that the justice or their acts are justifiable, and what they're doing is in the right for whatever Vecna or this thing believes in. Because they told Chrissy that that she doesn't need to suffer anymore, and that that Vecna ended her because of that, to try to help her out, I'm assuming, because that's what it seemed like. And then for Fred, it could be the same thing, but then it said to Fred that it wanted him to join it. So maybe killing someone or act is bringing them towards Vecna or powering him or something along them lines, or just like kind of obtaining them and like not possessing them, but more of kind of like attracting them kind of thing, and like bringing them like, or like obtaining their soul or something like that. I'm not sure how to word it right, but something maybe like that. I'm not sure. It could literally be anything. I'm just guessing and assuming. And then it could also just be that this thing, because we see at the end of the episode that this shot that I said was badass that I'm looking at right now, with all the tentacles around, and Vecna's like held up in the air by these tentacles that I think it controls. Vecna actually is a living, breathing thing somewhere in Hawkins or in the Upside Down, and is using this power that it has through the Upside Down to attack people's consciousness and like attack their minds. And that's why in reality we're not actually seeing these things like appear, but we do see like Chrissy and Fred actually like get demolished and they die and end up getting killed. So it seems like Vecna attacks their mind and their consciousness, and it's not actually fully there in person, but can still has great power over everyone else and can deal immense damage, obviously. So this thing of Vecna attacking people's minds and just like obtaining them and attacking them to begin with could also have them like bringing their consciousness to the Upside Down and like having their own embodiment and like birthing them and like rebirthing them to the Upside Down, and maybe then they'll be there. I'm not sure. It could go either way. It could go any way possible, and I'm just throwing it out there and thinking of what I'm guessing and what I'm thinking of off of what I'm seeing. Despite any theories or any thoughts I have, obviously Vecna is this dark and really powerful entity, this being that is here and can do a lot. So if you're still here, please let me know what you think of this. But this is the end of the episode, and it's fitting because this is also the end of the video. I think I've gotten my point across and talked about pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about and shed light on everything I wanted to. So that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Be in tune and stay tuned for more episodes or videos about Stranger Things. I'm about to watch Chapter 3 right now and make the video on it next after I watch it. So, thank you for watching this one. I appreciate it greatly. Subscribe, like, comment, etc., etc. Or maybe Vecna will come after you. You just gotta make sure you don't hear that bell anytime soon, hopefully. And, again, thank you. Subscribe, like, comment, etc., etc., Or Vecna. But anyways, thank you again. This has been Ghosty, and I bid you all farewell.